Morning, all. So I wanted to talk about the problem that I'm trying to tackle at the present. We'll get back to all the individual other pieces, but basically, I want to get the wheels rolling again. Before I boxed the whole robot rover up, um, that's where I was at, and I suspect that once I succeeded at getting the wheels rolling, the motors turning, the primary motors turning, I got distracted with other side projects, such as the infrared communication stuff that I mentioned in previous videos. And what then may have happened is that I added additional wiring that complicated things, which I completely forgot about now, and resulted in making the process of getting the wheels to turn again much more complicated. So I had been testing basically communication between, so taking a step back, so I had the Mega board acting as the master and the Uno board acting as a slave, and the Uno board being responsible for communication with the two primary motor controllers here. So just to simplify things, I cut the Mega out completely for the time being and just tried to get the communication going between at least one of the motor controllers. Each motor controller controls two primary motors on each side of the rover. So I managed to get the communication working, but not the wheels turning. And basically I kept on getting an error light on whichever motor controller I tested. And I've come to the conclusion that it's because the motor controller boards are getting power to the logic board, but not the main power that actually drives the motors. So let me explain that as well. So I tracked down the user manual for the motor controllers. The motor controllers, by the way, are called RoboClaws, and the version are 2x5 amp, because basically that's the max output amperage that I need for the primary motors. They won't draw more than 4 amps. In any case, from the diagram, basically what I want to highlight is this section and this section. So you can see that there's power here and there's power here. This refers to the primary battery that actually delivers power to the individual motors, whereas this power, this 5 volt and this ground, is the logic circuit power. So basically when I was testing, I knew for a fact that I was getting the logic board power in because I got the lights to turn on. But when I actually asked the motor controller board to rotate the motors, I got an error light. I quickly kept on disconnecting the motor controllers because I was worried about frying a circuit there. Okay, this part may prove difficult for me to actually show you, so you're going to have to take my word for it. But the motor controller here goes through a few steps. So there's a primary battery here. I'll talk about the batteries in a future video. That delivers power through this black cable here. As you can see, the black cable feeds into this, which is a power module, not directly to the motor controller. So the motor controller gets the primary battery kind of fuel from this end, and the logic circuit stuff from this end. So what I had forgotten about was that I wired in the switch here. So the primary battery comes into the power module. From the power module, it loops through a switch, a relay here, and then only then actually flows back into the motor controller. So what I kind of discovered through various attempts at testing the motors was that the motor controller wasn't getting the primary battery, no matter how I tried to go about it. And I suspect that the problem is that in my efforts to simplify things, I had disconnected completely the relay and the relay wasn't getting any power. And my theory at present is that without power to the relay, it's not allowing juice to flow back into the motor controller. To complicate things a little bit further, the relay is actually not something that you can just kind of turn on. You have to program it to turn on whichever relays you want on or off. And to do that, I could, for example, wire in the relay directly to the Uno, for example, and have the Uno control it. The problem is it eats up so many ports. So that's the reason for the shift out module, which is this thing here. It basically allows me to use as few ports as possible on the Uno. Sorry for the abrupt cutoff there, memory, battery / problems. So in any case, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So the next step for me will be to rewire the shift out module to control the relays, and hopefully that will solve the problem of getting the main power flow to the motor controller. So let me start that wiring process and I'll follow up with you guys.